Hey, Rainmakers, how you guys doing? Greg Mack, Rainmaker 201 podcast. Looks like a do-over. I think the last podcast I didn't have my sound on or my mute button was on or something, so I apologize for that. Mistakes happen, don't they? So what I was talking about in the previous podcast was as professional interviewers, questioners, when you're talking to a suspect or prospect, especially in the face-to-face, we're doing an interview, and this interview means that you're asking a lot of questions. And they're going to ask you questions because they're interviewing you too, but you need a lot of information as well. And so when you're interviewing and asking questions and reversing, what do we want you to do? We want you to put some softening statements or strokes, if you will, in front of any question you're asking or any response that you're giving in terms of something they said or a question they asked. And why? Why do we need to do this? To slow and control the tempo? Because if you ask questions too quickly in machine gun-like order, you're going to come across like an interrogator. And this isn't an interrogation. It's just an interview, and you need to nurture and slow down and allow the suspect or prospect some time to answer the questions and think about their answers and give you a chance to do the same. And so when you're asking questions back to a prospect or suspect, you want to say things like, that was smart, or I appreciate you saying that, or thank you for the question, or I certainly like where you're coming from. I appreciate your thoughtfulness. You've obviously considered some other things, and you've had some great experiences in the past. I appreciate what you're saying. Statements like this, in order to, again, show that you're listening, provide some nurturing, and stretch out the tempo a little bit so you don't sound like an interrogator. And so you'll need to practice this and come up with an entire quiver of little stroke or softening statements that you ask or state before a question that you're going to ask them. So you can also just take a deep breath and pause. There's nothing wrong with that. And so, when you pause like that, it might seem like an eternity to you. It's not. Just relax. So, what was this podcast all about? When you're an interviewer, a questioner, which is what I want you to become, a professional questioner, don't ask so many questions so fast that it comes off like an interrogation. That'll put your suspect or prospect on the defensive, and it's already a sketchy situation in the sales transaction for all the kind of reasons we've talked about in the past. And so we don't need to add to the defensiveness and the stress and the wall that people put up when they think they're in a situation where someone's trying to take their money from them. All right, there you go. Stroke and soften. Stretch out your questions a little bit. Don't be an interrogator.